Good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to welcome Coordinator, Center for Art Studies, and Course Convener, Dr. Anandita Roy Saha, faculty members present here with us today, and the participants of the course in the valedictory session of the online certificate course in climate, community, and conservation. As we know that today we are coming to a successful completion, I would say, of this month-long course, which was organized under the three themes, as we know that. And so today we are celebrating its successful completion. And to start with the successful this celebration, first of all, today we have a special lecture session by Dr. Naveen Kumar Tiwari. As all of you know him, he needs no introduction, I would say, because all of you are familiar with him and he is very much he was with you in most of the sessions. He has holded a number of sessions that we had. And today I would like to welcome him to share his views and his for a special lecture session today. So he is a part of the managing or organizing committee of the course, and he is the faculty member at the Department of Environmental Studies, Indraprasth College for Women. So now I would hand over the session to Dr. Tiwari. Over to you, Naveen.
Thank you, Dr. Neha. It's no. I think you called started this session with a call for celebration, but I guess we are going to take a pause with the celebration because the last session or the last lecture session that I'm going to take up today with you is about long-term monitoring, and no, it's a bit of a there are technical things with this session, but I would try to keep it in sync with all the previous sessions that has already happened under this theme. So just to give you a quick recap, starting with Professor Ruchi Badola, we started talking about how people, we talked about Ganga Praharis, how local communities can be involved in conservation of a river. And then M. Ananda Kumar talked about elephant conservation in Valparai and Hassan districts. And Karishma Pradhan just yesterday, she gave you a very excellent example of hornbill conservation in Northeast. So with a lot of community participation efforts already coming under discussion. Today, I just thought that to wrap this this theme and also this course, I'll give you some idea about what is actually this long-term monitoring that we are so much talking about. What is the importance of long-term monitoring? What are the challenges associated with that? Why do we need long-term monitoring? Why not just start a study in a 1 year or 2 year and finish it and then have crisp result within a very precise time frame, rather than spending years and years in field and collecting field data and then finding it even difficult to analyze? So how long-term monitoring can be really important in terms of in most of the conservation studies, and also in terms of generating valuable data set for ecosystems, for individuals, for species. And also we'll try to understand that how communities can be involved in these long-term monitoring projects. So let me just quickly start sharing my screen with you. Once my screen is visible, just let me know, and then we will begin. So is my screen visible to you all?
Yes.
Okay. So to start with community participation in long-term monitoring, let us first try to understand. Can you see my screen moving? No?
No.
Okay, so let me just change the mode of sharing here, I think. So I guess this would be better now. So first of all, let's try to understand that what is monitoring. And in ecology and ecological studies, monitoring is about looking at any system over a period of time and trying to understand what are the changes that is happening in the system. If there is a population that you are studying, say, let's talk about tiger, that what is the increase or decrease in the number of tigers in the system. So these kind of monitoring for conservation and practices related to conservation can be very broadly divided into two kinds of monitoring. So one is your omnibus surveillance, where we are monitoring everything that we see. So suppose you have just been appointed as a ranger of a forest, and you want to start some monitoring program in that forest. So what you do is that you start monitoring everything in the forest. You start collecting data about butterflies, about trees, about wasps, about birds, about mammals, about other invertebrates. So these kind of omnibus surveillance basically is done with a hope that somehow the data that you are collecting is going to prove useful in future and to implement some conservation practices. So you can understand that omnibus surveillance mostly does not start with a very specific goal for conservation. They are begin with a very broad conservation idea in mind, looking at the ecosystem that you are monitoring, looking at the habitat that you are monitoring. These omnibus surveillance can run for a year or 2 year or 3 year or even maybe more, right? But then the other kind of monitoring, which most of us would like to or would be more interested in knowing, and also about in conducting yourself if you have a chance, is focused monitoring. So you are trying to generate precise data, precise information about species, about populations, about ecosystems, which are required to make conservation decisions, right? For instance, if you want to conserve a tiger population, no, a larger tiger population in an area, you would like to have a strong data set on the prey populations. No, deer kitne hain wahan forest mein, maybe nilgai and other prey base of the tiger. If you are looking at that kind of conservation effort. So generating precise information is more like a focused monitoring in an area. So this is just about two kinds of monitoring, because this is just sort of sets up a base for what we are going to talk about in coming few minutes. So if you look at this kind of graph, I think this is one of the most oldest and also shows a longest term data set that we are having today. And this data set tells us about climate change, very a global phenomenon that we all have heard about, but for which we have irrefutable proof. Although there are some people who might deny that climate change is not happening actually, but nevertheless we know that it is from several examples, and one we can see right here. Now this data set, if you remember Dr. Mukund Behra's session, he talked about how climate change data is collected. In fact, some of you even asked him questions that how these long-term data sets can be created, because we were not there. This data set is starting from today. That zero is actually 2012. So from here to around 0.4 million years ago. So 4 lakh years ago, we were not there at the time with all our advanced science and technology. So how have we collected this data? There are ways of doing so through layers, exploration of layers of ice in northern and southern pole. We were able to extract data, information about carbon dioxide level, methane level, and temperature at that point of time. And we were able to draw some direct correlations between these. We saw that when the CO2 level in the recent times took a peak, the same peak was seen in CH4, that was a methane level. Not that these two were related, but these two, both of these increased because of growing pollution level. We saw that there is a rise in temperature. And similarly, which the phenomenon which we now very well know as global warming, and it also had implications on our ambient environment in form of rise in sea level. So this is one of the excellent figure showing what a long-term monitoring can look like. Although this is not from ecology, we are mostly focused on understanding long-term monitoring studies for conservation practices. But nevertheless, a very brilliant example of how long-term monitoring can help you understanding a certain phenomenon and give you direct cause and effect relationships between certain ecological phenomenon. For instance, हम global warming की बात करें, तो now we know CO2 rise कर रहा है, methane rise कर रहा है अगर atmosphere में, then global average temperature is also going to rise, and so is the sea level, because with rising temperature, the polar ice is going to melt and the sea level is going to rise. So these are some very basic things that you all know. So This is one of the example of another data set. Now, let me just take a brief pause here and try to get some answers from you. Because when we say long-term monitoring, what do you consider long-term monitoring? Say if I ask you that, okay, we want to monitor bird populations in a forest. What would you consider long-term? A month, a year, 10 years, 100 years, 500 years? Any idea? Anyone?
Sir,
Uh,
maybe a decade.
a decade. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else would try to give an estimate?
So that could bring us the most important information regarding why we are doing that monitoring. So that time period.
Okay. Okay. So there has to be some basis in identifying. It is not random. The reason why I asked this question, someone says 30 years. That there is a basis. It's just not random. एक तो reason देखिए जितने भी long term monitoring होती हैं या कोई भी monitoring program है, they all are restricted with the amount of funding that they get. सो अगर आपके पास 10 साल की फंडिंग है तो हमने 10 साल के लिए रिसर्च प्रोग्राम रन किया. अगर हमारे पास 20 साल की फंडिंग है तो 20 years. दैट इज वन ऑफ द लिमिटिंग फैक्टर, बट दैट इज नॉट अ साइंटिफिकली approved limiting factor. Basically what I'm trying to say. So there has to be some basis. It's not just a random figure. So let's just see what a long-term monitoring is. Right. So studies of any naturally, and basically what we're talking about is LTRM, which is a term that I'll be using over and over again. People call it by different names, no LTRE, LTREE, but I've just abbreviated as long-term research and monitoring, LTRM, and you can call it LTRME when you are saying long-term research and monitoring in ecology. So this LTRME is study of naturally regulated populations, which means populations which are found in natural ecosystems, and collecting data over an adequate period of time, which can be very important in understanding several aspects of ecology and evolution of that species. And for different species, the definition of long term is also going to change. For instance, I'll just trying to give you a very basic example of, say, bacteria. So a single cell of bacteria can multiply very fast, and in around 80 minutes or 10 hours of growth, a billion of bacterial cells can be there in a petri dish. So in this case, what could be a long-term research and monitoring time span could be very small, could be around 120 minutes, 2 hours, or 10 hours, or 24 hours. This is very easily a long-term monitoring program for bacterial populations. But if you look at other populations, for instance, this is an image from a study that we conducted in 2015, 14, 15, and 16, which is of a colonial water bird called painted stork nesting. So this kind of study, if you can see some of the dates also here, it's the same nest which has been monitored over a period of time in the same breeding season, in a single breeding season. So the nesting happens for roughly around 6 months, starting from August to Feb, March, sometimes even ends as early as January. So this kind of setup, if you are trying to understand the nesting behavior or nesting success or nesting survival, several other parameters related to nesting, 6 months of study is enough. That is very well a long-term study. If you're trying to understand the population of this species, we have made some attempt on that as well. You will see even 100 years could be a very good long-term time span. If you're trying to understand dynamics of evolution and all distribution of tree species in tropical rainforest, where these trees can grow for around an age of 400 to 500 years, even 500 years could not be a very good long-term time span for us for having a study. So you can see with the age of multiplication and age of reproduction or reproducing age of species, or also the survival age of the species, the span of long term also changes. Now, if we see what are the advantages of having long term research and monitoring, because एक सबसे बेसिक डिसएडवांटेज जो मुझे ये नजर आता है, and आप भी शायद agree करेंगे, that all these long term monitoring are they're going to take a lot of time, a lot of manpower, a lot of effort, a lot of funding is required for these kind of studies. But still, we are doing it because we definitely see some advantages linked with that. For instance, analysis of age structure. We will come to these points one by one. मैं बहुत ही simple form में आपको समझाने की कोशिश करूंगा that what these advantages are. And we are talking about ecology, but many of you might not be interested in understanding or working in ecology, but maybe interested in political science, or maybe interested in social sciences, maybe interested in understanding demography. Almost same research methodology and understanding can be replicated in all those branches. Although that's why instead of using that LT term, LTRME, which is long-term research and monitoring in ecology, I've only used long-term research and monitoring. Although my examples in ecology se lunga because that is my area of work, but it can be very well expanded to other sections as well. So what are the advantages? Let's try to take a look. Linkages between life history stages, social structure agar aap quantify karna chahein. Again, social sciences, derivation of lifetime fitness measures. If we want to see linkages between generations, for instance, generation Y and X and Z, unme aap koi consumer behavior study karna chahte hain, again, you need a long-term monitoring here. And if you want to decipher population trends, one of the most important aspect of having or need of having long-term research and monitoring for ecological studies is this one, deciphering population trends. And we will take up examples to understand that. Now, with these advantages, you will see that around the world there are various examples where long-term monitoring and research and monitoring studies have been established, but in India they are very few. And what are the reasons, what are the challenges behind that? One first is that there are gaps in research priorities. Most of us would want to initiate a research which we are able to finish or conclude in our own lifetime. So there are gaps in priorities of research. Then there are opportunities for expansion into underrepresented fields. So what people are looking at is that, for instance, मैं Himalayan ecology study कर रहा हूँ, and if I study the same system for say 50 years, I'd be able to decipher so much from that system. But instead of doing that, I switch to some other area which is underrepresented, which is less studied, and try to find something new over there. So this is like the hopping behavior of a researcher who is not stuck to one place, who is not stuck to one system, but tries to explore other areas, newer areas for expanding his own understanding. So that is another reason. Then limitations of long-term experimental designs and data collection strategies. सबसे limitations क्या है, मैं आपको ये I'll try to give you an idea. एक सबसे बड़ी लिमिटेशन ये है that through the entire research period or monitoring period, अगर आप 10 साल की स्टडी रखते हैं या 50 साल की 100 years, your research methodology has to be replicated every single time you are collecting your data. So your experimental design, your research methodology cannot change, right? So if you are collecting data from field, if you are counting populations, the research methodology should be same. अगर आप line transit use कर रहे हैं या फिर दूसरे किसी तरह के sampling, distance sampling method use कर रहे हैं, वो same होगा. अगर आप questionnaire use कर रहे हैं, वो same रखना पड़ेगा आपको. But what you will find that over a period of time, the same methodology may not be very effective. You would want some evolution in the methodology. And then your data set, the interpretation of your data set will also change over a period of time. So कुछ limitations यहाँ आती हैं, and that is a major reason why many researchers and scientists have stopped their long-term monitoring at some point of time, given some gap, evolved their methodology and started afresh. So that is something that happens very often. And then there are also very limited number of scientists who have worked in the field of wrote papers in with long-term monitoring data. और इसका एक बहुत बड़ा reason आपको इस graph में नीचे नजर आएगा, although we will discuss this at the end, is about how fundings vary for long-term and short-term studies. So let's move ahead. Let's try to understand categories in LTRMs and mostly in ecology. So in ecology, there are two categories in long-term research and monitoring. The first category is your population level studies. And then you have individual level studies. So with population level studies, what are we trying to understand? We are trying to measure the size, structure, and distribution of any population where we are not marking any recognizable individual. अब जैसे कोई bird की study आप कर रहे हैं, just to give you simple examples, if you are ringing a bird, yeah, if you are putting up a GPS tag on a bird, then you are trying to understand the individual behavior. right? You are trying to see that, okay, ये bird यहाँ से migrate करनी शुरू की और यहाँ गई and then came back to this place or went to that place. So that is an individual based study or individual level study. But instead of that, you are trying to monitor the population of a species over a period of time. For instance, there is a certain species which is coming to a certain lake every year. It migrates to a certain lake. आप हर साल winters में जाते हैं और वहां पे उनके numbers को count करते हैं कि ठीक है, this particular say gray lag goose comes to this lake. This year the number was 500. Next year the number was 600. Next year the number was only 50. So for 10, 15 years, if you continue doing so, you will find that there is some trend that you will be able to see in those data set. So population level studies, a very good example is Harrington et al. 2007. And then sometimes these population level studies are also conducted to understand the effect of climate. जो आज के टाइम में, आई मीन ये दो एग्जांपल्स मैंने इसलिए लिए बिकॉज क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड studying the impact of climate change on native ecosystems and wildlife populations is a very hot topic, I would say, for research. Is a very fertile ground for research these days. So looking at the effect of change in climate on distribution, density, growth, and reproductive timing in different organisms can be a very good way of looking at population level studies where long-term monitoring is required. And one example here that you can see is a study by Thakre S.J. which came published in 2010, where they have studied the changes or trends in plants, invertebrates and vertebrates in marine, freshwater and terrestrial environments between 1976 and 2005. A very long-term study and a very significant one. And you can see some of the important data sets. These are change in trends. These are negative, these are positive trends. And we won't go specifically into this study, but I'll just wanted to show you that these studies do exist, where for 15 years, 25, 30 years, data have been collected. Then there are individual based studies also, which again are in the purview of long term because they continue for years and years, monitoring and tracking a single individual or maybe a group of individuals. Sometimes individual का मतलब ये नहीं होता कि एक lion है, कई दफा herds of lion, flocks of birds, right? They are also tracked over a period of time, and we try to put them under the purview of long-term study. Just give me a moment. Yeah. So these long-term studies, which are individual-based, they are mostly monitoring development and life histories of samples of individually recognizable animals. टैग कर दिया, जो हमने बताया था, जीपीएस टैग करा आपने या किसी भी तरह का टैग लगा के या कई दफा ब्रांडिंग करके. आई हैव सीन पीपल, जैसे यू कैन सी हियर in this example from Alberta 1972, the species have just been branded with certain tag here. तो कोई जीपीएस टैग या ऐसा कुछ नहीं लगाया आपने, एक सिंपल सा टैग लगा के उसको मार्क कर दिया. Now, one of the first example of long-term individual-based field study has come from Britain and Holland. That was way back in 1954 when David Lack, a very renowned ecologist, started working on blue tits and great tits. So you can see in 1954 he started the study. For here also you can see this greenback tit here. The study started in 1947, continuing till now. So I just collected examples of species on which long-term monitoring has already started and begun and is still continuing. There have been gaps in these studies. I won't say that bilkul and without any gap these studies have continued and they have been very regular, but most of them are continuing. So 1947, 50, 64, 75, 71, you can see these examples. These studies started 30 years, 40 years, sometimes even 60 years ago, are still continuing, and long-term data set has been generated for several species. Here you can see European roller, कुछ Indian species हैं, swans. इसी तरह का अप्रोच जो है लॉन्ग टर्म पैसराइन बर्ड्स में, सी बर्ड्स, वेडर्स, वाटरफॉल्स, रैप्टर्स में इन स्टडीज में स्टार्ट किया गया. इफ यू वांट टू टेक लुक एट एग्जांपल्स, यू कैन लुक एट दीस स्टडीज सेपरेटली. Then similar kind of long-term monitoring and long-term studies were initiated with primates and other mammals, and some of these studies I've just given you a few examples. So let's try to understand the time scale of any long-term monitoring. Although we've already talked about this in the first slide itself. So no, a lot of ecology happens between. This is a very interesting figure. I just wanted to share this with you. Happens within no, a very small period of time, seconds, minutes. But in months, years, decades, and centuries, most of your LTER, that is the long-term ecological research and monitoring, that will happen. So this is one no, major time bracket in which we are looking at when we are mostly no, talking about LTRMs. So this is another example of a very age-old long-term monitoring program that was started in US by United States Environmental Protection Agency, US EPA. And this is a global change research program, which is looking at the effect of climate change uh, and using biological monitoring to understand that effect. So you can see here that in different areas, starting at 1840 till 2000, they have collected data set from different lakes and bays in the sea and trying to understand the impact of climate change on underwater invertebrates. So कुछ bio indicators से देखने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं that which are going to be primarily affected by climate change. That's one example of long-term monitoring. एक और example of long-term monitoring का देखें, it's again from US. There are several states of US who are conducting water quality monitoring for stream water, and they're also looking at water quality of precipitated, that means the rainfall. And they have a very long-term data set starting from 1960 to 1995. So anyone who is in interest of with data, which let me tell you is the key for future. In future, no, even today, in the present and future, it's all about data. Someone who has data, no, yields the power, yields the sword to change everything. So data is very crucial, very important these days. So if you try to understand and feel what I feel about data and what many of us feels about data, you will realize that this kind of data set are just gold mines for any analyst. So again, a very strong long-term data here. Now, as far as LTRMs from India is concerned, I mean, no, I'm sure there are other examples also. Although I have been a bit skewed in taking up examples which has come from groups with whom I have been associated with. But to tell you overall in India, long-term research and monitoring is very far and few, except for one that is about with the tiger population. Although there is a huge king started in 1972, the tiger census. It's not a it's a long-term data set, but it shows an increase in tiger population. But if you extend that data set way back to 1700, you will see in 1700s we had around 1,40,000 tigers in India. और अभी हमारे पास 3,000 हैं. बट हम नो इस बीच में जब कम होके वो टाइगर नंबर 650 तक चले गए थे, फ्रॉम देयर व्हेन वी plot it, we see that there is an increase in the tiger trends. A very good data set of long-term data set which is available is on a species called painted stork. Now on this bird I had worked for around 6 years now, and we have tracked its population, nesting behavior, ecology over a very wide landscape in Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan, and also in areas close to Delhi and some parts of Haryana. And we have been trying to understand that how these birds behave because they are fish eating birds, so it is very logical to say that they would be very much tied up with rainfall. So more rainfall, more fishes in the ponds, more water in the ponds, so more of these birds will try to nest and breed, and the larger the population size would be. And exactly, that is so true. But we're trying to identify markers, we were trying to identify thresholds, that okay, if this much rainfall happens, minimum this much of rainfall happens, there is no impact on the nesting and breeding of these birds. But if the rainfall falls below that, if the water level in the wetland fall below that, then there is a plausible impact that we can see. So that is just a background of this study. But overall, if you can see this data set, I have circled this part because if you look at this graph, what do you see? Anyone? So on this side you have years. On this side you have number of nests built in Bharatpur, that is Keoladev National Park, very close to Delhi. So any interpretation on this graph? Yes, anyone? whether you see a rise or you see a decline. Very simple interpretation.
So
Sir,
there's a decline, and after reaching this point in 2005, there's a rise.
There is a rise. Okay. So let me ask you a question. What if we started this monitoring in 2005 itself? What would have been your comment?
then it will show the positive trend of rising, sir.
Uh, Himanshu, can you be a bit louder?
Sir, if we have started that on 2005, that means that will show the rise in the.
That will show the rise, and it will falsely lead you to believe that the population is actually rising and everything is so well with the system. But when we look at this whole data set starting from 1980s, some of which were collected by Kailash Shankhala, uh, in fact, this particular plot, I collected data from this part. This part was collected by my supervisor during my PhD, Professor Urfi. It's a very his work on painted stock is very well known. And but if you collectively look at this data set, you will see that there is an obvious decline. There could be a very short term increase in the population size, but at large scale there is a decline in the population. Sometimes these decline can also be seen in a very short term. Now if this is a very interesting figure, I have been studying this pond during 2013, 14 and 15, and this image is of the same pond in the first on the front side of the pond, and this is the rear side of the pond, so two sides of a colony. So what you see inside here is a small island-like situation in a pond on which you have some trees, and these birds are nesting on these trees. So these are colonial water birds. So they nest in large colonies in on these inside these wetlands. So over a period of time, you see 2013, 14, 15, even in the front side or the rear side, there is a decline in the number of birds that you see, a visible decline in the number of birds. Similarly, you also see that the visible decline or degradation in the water quality. So now you can see how we can directly relate pollution or water quality to diversity or to biodiversity and also nesting of species. Now, when we plotted this, you can see for 4 different species which were nesting on these trees: painted stork, white ibis, Asian opalbill, and grey heron. In 3 years of time span, we saw a decline in all 4 of them. In fact, for 15, 16, grey herons were completely absent from here. So this species was gone, at least from this site. So you can understand that sometimes, even in a very short span of time, I mean, without a need of a long-term monitoring, we can see remarkable changes happening in habitats. Changes which can very much intrigue you and interest you. For instance, these kind of changes. So these is just a few examples of long-term monitoring from around the world, and also some from India, most of which I've just placed because I wanted to give you data set. So I have used my own studies for that. But there are a few other studies also for which we do not know or we do not have the data set. There is something called eBird that we'll talk about in the end, which has long-term data, but let's restrict to that, what we have discussed till now. And let's now try to understand why long-term research and monitoring is needed. So there are 5 different aspects of long-term research and monitoring in ecology that we are going to discuss today, briefly discuss today, and then we'll try to wind up our discussion with some very basic arguments with long-term monitoring, and then involvement of communities in long-term monitoring. So the first aspect is about deciphering population trends. So let's take up examples, and then development and aging, reproductive ecology, sex allocation, sex ratio variations, structure and dynamics. बस सबसे पहली चीज जो हम देखना चाहते हैं वो population trends को. And these graphs would be very interesting to you if you look them closely. Now, this is a graph obtained from a very long-term study, which is, which the project is called BTO, Heronry's Census. Okay, so British Trust of Ornithology in Britain, they are conducting this Heronry census in United Kingdom, and this is number of breeding pairs of a bird called grey heron. Grey heron India में भी मिलती है. It's a native bird for India as well. So this is this data set starts from 1928 to 2012. Right now, what do you see in this data set? Overall, there is a rise or decline. There is an obvious rise in the number of breeding pairs in grey heron. But what we what is the beauty of these long-term data sets is that if you look at these four places here, for instance, if the study would have been conducted between 1930 to say 1937, what you would have said, there is a huge increase in the number of nesting pairs in gray herons. Similarly, if the study would have been conducted from 1948 to somewhere here, 1955, again there is a rising trend. So in these four different time frames, at different and a very long time frames, years, फॉर इंस्टेंस आप पीएचडी करना चाहते हैं, आपने ग्रे हेरन को एक स्टडी नो सब्जेक्ट के रूप में चुना, एंड देन यू स्टार्टेड कलेक्टिंग डेटा समवेयर अराउंड इन 1994, and then you stop collecting data in 2000. What you will report is that there is a progressive increase in the population, and you will never know about any such conditions which can lead to decline also, because you have never reported these declines. So in the same data set, at four different points you saw rising trends, but in the same data sets at four different other points we also see declining trends. So if someone started their study somewhere around in 1935 and ended somewhere around 1943, they will say that, okay, grey heron populations are declining severely in Great Britain, and there is something really wrong with the habitat. We need immediate solutions to save the population. So is the case here, so is the case here, so is the case here. So in the same data set, imagine, unless it's a long-term monitoring, you will get confusing trends. कुछ लोग कहेंगे rise कर रहा है, कुछ लोग कहेंगे decline हो रही है, because उनका time frame जो था वो अलग अलग था. So the beauty of a long-term monitoring in any study is the way we are deciphering these population trends. Same again, if you see, look at some other examples. There's an example of changes in reporting rate, which means encounter rate. आप बाहर गए, आपने फील्ड में डेटा कलेक्ट करना शुरू किया, so आपको कितनी दफा वो स्पीसीज दिखती है. And this study is from temperate woodland birds in southeastern Australia, and this has been done by Lindenmayer and Cunningham and published in 2011. They have a long-term data set starting from 98 till 2010-11. They collected data, and if you can see, they have beautifully shown that there are some species like brown tree creepers, like diamond firetail, restless flycatcher, and grey strike. Their population is rising. Their reporting rate or encounter rate is increasing, which can be an indicative of population size also. But crested strike tit ye decline kar raha hai. So only long-term monitoring can help you in deciphering these population trends. Now you can understand again the importance of long-term monitoring in ecology. There are several other examples, even habitat. If you're looking at landscape level changes, 96, 97, 2000, 2004, the landscape changes. And with the change in landscape, available habitat changes. And with that change in available habitat, the population size, community composition, kind of species which are found in that region, all of these changes. So deciphering these population trends with, again, long-term data set becomes much easier. You can see here, gray strike thrush and common bronzewing, they are increasing. Again, this is Lindenmeyer's data, but black-faced cuckoo and yellow-rumped hornbills, their population is declining in Australia. So what you will find a bit discomforting with Indian context, that we do not have any such long-term studies for most of the species in India. And by most of, I can see, you can just count on your fingers for which you have such, for species for which you have such long-term data set. I will place them close to around 10 to 15 or at the max 20. And we have so many species in India, from different groups, but that's one of the that opens up a large, you can say, a large ground for research where we can initiate these kind of projects, and long-term monitoring can be established. Now, the other way or factor in which long-term monitoring can help us is in understanding development and aging. So all of these can be understood very nicely. I'm just sharing again a data set that I generated about nesting for 4 or 5 years. So again, this is not a very long-term data set, but as I told you, for different aspects, for instance, nesting, A data set of 6 months can also be a long term, but that 6 months include everyday monitoring. So spending 6 months entirely in the field, or maybe alternate day monitoring, we can see that, for instance, no, this is the, on this side you have number of nests built or nest initiated. So starting in August अगर nesting शुरू हो रही है, तो शुरू में कुछ कम नेस्ट बनते हैं, बट थोड़े बाद में जाके सबसे ज्यादा नेस्ट बनते हैं अराउंड 15 to 20 days, and then the number of nests initiated also declines. So we, that's the kind of developmental and aging process that can be best understood with a long term data set. Again, if you want to understand what are the factors which are affecting daily survival, for instance, again, this is a example from my own study, started in 2012 and ended in 2015. If you're looking at daily survival rate, it declines of a species, which means एक nest built up होता है किसी, for instance, this is for painted stock, उसने nest बनाई. अब there are so many nests which are built on day one, but by the end of the nesting season, many of these nests are just blown out. No, very few of them are actually successful, from where young ones are hatched and they are successfully flying away with their parents. So that nesting success, it depends on the nests, on the age of the nest, which means जो nest पहले बने थे nesting season में, right? For instance, अगर nesting season की शुरुआत अगस्त में होती है, those nests which were built in August, they had a very high nest survival rate. Those nests which were built later in the season, they had again a very low nest survival rate. So these kind of understanding about reproductive ecology and evolution, जैसे यहाँ पे आप देखें, so this is the effect of breeding on overwinter survival of female soya sheep. Again, a study which was published in Journal of Animal Ecology. So you can see very interesting trends. Survival increases with weight. ये ऐसे भी एक simple सी understanding है. Those who are we say that जो थोड़े heavy होते हैं या heavy build के हैं, they will be more fit. और जो थोड़े पतले दुबले से हैं, ऐसा मतलब एक biological fitness अगर आप देखें, so that can be related to this. Again, survival probability in different species in different conditions is affected with the body condition. Then sex allocation and sex ratio variation. This graph comes from a paper published in Nature. The cost of rearing sons and daughter of female red deer, of varying status. So it says that the cost of the probability of surviving a winter for a female cub is higher than a male, because you can see that for most of the part this is higher than the male, but slowly it keeps on declining. And but for male, it increases only at the highest dominance level. So just another example of long-term monitoring. So now we have discussed enough examples of long-term monitoring. Now you probably would have a very good idea of how long-term monitoring works. Let me tell you what is the spread of long-term monitoring programs, especially in ecology. Now it's a very interesting graph. Around 1,500 scientists working with long-term monitoring programs were asked to fill a questionnaire. Okay, and this shows that this graph shows that which scientists or people involved in which field or with what kind of expertise, and they were involved more in long-term monitoring programs. So the smallest long-term monitoring programs was happening, or least number of people working in long-term monitoring were from systematics. And as usual, scientists don't like to respond to questionnaires. The no response was the highest respondent. But community ecology में सबसे ज़्यादा long-term monitoring हो रही है, which is basically the number of respondents there from community ecology having long-term studies, they are highest. Then ecosystem ecology, plant ecology, evolutionary biology, some of the topics that we discussed earlier, इनमें सबसे ज़्यादा long-term monitoring हो रही है. Again, what is the role of monitoring program, long-term monitoring programs? If someone wants to go through this graph, because this is a much more complicated figure, I can leave the presentation with you and you can go through it. But what I would like to tell you is that a great amount of role is coming from ecosystem services, and when we are talking about ecosystem ecology, and when we are talking about population ecology, then global change effect on populations, is मेजर वो टॉपिक. एंड देन कम्युनिटी इकोलॉजी में सक्सेशन पे सबसे ज्यादा काम हो रहा है, जिसमें लॉन्ग टर्म मॉनिटरिंग की जरूरत है. Now, I'll just skip this part. Probably not very useful for you. हाँ, let's talk a little bit about this. Requirement क्या है long term monitoring programs की? What is needed, right? So सबसे पहली चीज जो जरूरी है वो फंडिंग. और फंडिंग में भी जो सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी है वो है more than 5 years of guarantee for funding. If you are going to start a long term monitoring program, you would like at least 5 साल से ज्यादा के फंडिंग मेरे पास हो, या फिर गारंटी हो फंडिंग की, then only you would like to start up that. Then you need new project startup and multiple investigator, because कई दफा ये हो सकता है there are only 1 or 2 people working on the project, तो वो project बंद हो सकता है बीच में. But if you have multiple investigators, some of them they leave for some other opportunity, still the project can go on. Then logistics में you need site infrastructure maintenance, अगर आपके पास ऐसा कुछ है, that will be needed more. Then collaboration will be important, and collaboration में also you need an open and inclusive environment for collaboration. And then data set again is very important. What are the incentives of LTEM? I think we have already talked a lot about this. सबसे बड़ी incentive तो ये है that you have a greater understanding of the study system. Then you have more funding available for that. Then you have higher impact on the society or the profession if you are collecting long-term data set. The opportunities for collaboration also increases. You have stronger experimental approach, and so on and so forth. So most of the respondents feel within the same data set that I'm talking about, 1,500 ecologists ask questions about long-term monitoring. Most of them responded that a greater understanding of study system and then increased funding, ये दो चीजें सबसे ज्यादा ड्राइव करती हैं for long-term projects. But reality sometimes can be different. Now, this is the only figure that I could get for this is for US, and again from 2004 to 2014, the annual total funding in millions of US dollars for long-term and short-term studies. So for short-term studies, you can see this is the blue line. From 2004 to 2014, जो funding है वो increase करती जा रही है, because funding agencies want you to start a study quickly, finish the study, publish a report, give them something plausible within a time frame of 2 to 3 years. So most of the research funding that you will find, not only in ecology but in other branches of study as well, will be for 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, sometimes even less than that. So long-term monitoring definitely not possible with that. And starting from 2004 till 2014, the available funding for long-term monitoring has seen a progressive decline. At least for US we have that data available with us. So that is there. Now if you're looking at publications, because ultimately if you're conducting any study, if you're doing any research, you would want to publish it somewhere. So I've just taken up studies, journals which have been publishing long-term data sets, and which on an average have been publishing several studies on long-term data sets, and they're mostly from ecology. So Nature, Science, these are the top journals of the world in current biology, ecological letters, ecology, conservation biology, ecological applications, PLOS ONE. Most of them, they published less number of long-term studies in 2006, but more number of long-term studies in 2010. But if you look at another figure, the highest citation rate, which means if you're publishing a paper in, I mean, some of you might even know that about this, तो उस पेपर को कितनी दफा साइट किया गया decides, gives you some sort of impact of your research. And the highest citation is for long-term studies. So longer your study is, the more citations that you are going to receive. That is a clear-cut understanding that we can have as far as the publication output of your long-term monitoring programs are concerned. So with this, I would like to conclude the initial aspect of what we have been talking about today, and we have taken a lot of time in understanding the importance of long-term monitoring programs, the challenges which are involved with long-term monitoring programs. And now let us talk about how people can be involved, or how communities can be involved in these long-term monitoring programs. Because one of the major challenge of long-term monitoring is that of manpower, is that of effort and how you are going to optimize your effort and optimize your funding. One way is that if you have enormous funding, you hire research fellows and research associates and keep them in field always and keep on collecting data for years and years. But that kind of unlimited funding is it just happens in dreams and not in reality. So in reality, what you will have is a small penny amount of funding, और आपको 10 साल का डेटा सेट कलेक्ट करने के लिए आपने प्रोजेक्ट रखा है, तो आपके पास इवन 3 साल का भी फंडिंग नहीं होगा. So how do you try to get past with these kind of problems? Is that you identify and know logistic problems and try to find possible solution of those logistic problems in terms of involving people who are staying close to your study area. For instance, an example, you live in Delhi and you want to study the impact of say let's just, I'll give you an example of my own study, impact of changing rainfall and climatic conditions on nesting of a certain bird species in Bharatpur. So Bharatpur is 200 kilometers away from here. It is not possible for you, either you stay there permanently for the year of for the time of your study period, or you, if you're coming and going every week or every month, then you are going to spend a lot of money in and you're going to spend a lot of resources in traveling and maintaining logistics. So what you can do is that you can have local people from the area who can collect some level of data for you. Obviously, not all data can be collected by untrained people, but then there are other ways in which you can also train communities, fringe communities, people who are living close to your study site, people who are living into your study sites, mostly forest dwelling communities and villagers, farmers, to collect data set for you. And we applied the same kind of approach. If you remember the Chhata village pond that I show you images and number of birds and counts, all of those have been collected by farmers and villagers staying close to those ponds. And we only have been helping them in identifying birds. We gave them photographs, we gave them placards, we pasted posters on their walls. This is painted stork, this is grey heron, this is open bill, this is ibis, and we just asked them to click photographs. Sometimes you even left them with a camera, a good camera with which they can take photographs and send it to us. But these days, even mobile phones and other technology is very handy, so that can be even more useful and can be used to collect effectively collect data from from field. So examples, there are many from India. I am not specifically going into examples because in the past few sessions we have taken up these examples. One of the best community participation that I have encountered in conservation biology, at least, is wild elephants and tracking the movement of wild elephants and saving human and wild elephant conflict in Valparai and Hassan region. If you remember, Dr. M. Anand Kumar, who is the project coordinator, he talked about this at length in the second last lecture from today. So you know about this case study. I won't be discussing about this again. You knew how mobile phones and warning lights have been established, how people from the local communities were trained to generate mobile messages and send those warning messages to people who are living in the nearby areas, and thus know how they can help in how actually this project helped in reducing the human and elephant wildlife conflict in the region. So again, this kind of studies were very useful and have tried to involve communities with conservation projects. Another excellent conservation project which have involved communities in India. This story you heard just yesterday of hornbill nesting program and hornbill nest watch program in Arunachal and Pake Tiger Reserve, which was started by Aparajita Datta. Yesterday, Dr. Karisma Pradhan, who talked about this project, is a member of her team. She was not available for this for yesterday's session, so someone from her team took the session. So, anyways, these local communities, people who were made stakeholder in hornbill nesting program, they were involved in watching these nests, adopting these nests. So this is the nest adoption program. One person adopting 10 nests. So it is their responsibility to look after these nests and to ensure that these nests are are ending properly. They are, their trees are not cut during the period of nesting. There is no other attempt of hunting in the region during the period of nesting, so that these birds can nest at ease, and the younger generation of the population of hornbills can come. So another excellent example we discussed at length yesterday. So we can leave it no, to your understanding. Now I'll just like to tell you about the Hargila army, no, which is again from Assam, an excellent conservation project, no, started by Purnima Devi Varman, no, the lady who is starting in the front row, and she is no, top, no, is is mentoring the local villagers in Assam to conserve Hargila, which is the greater adjutant stork. So these birds are nesting on trees very close to the villages. So villagers, they used to cut down those trees and even sometimes eat the bird. But with increased people's community motivation and community participation in how these nests should be saved, these birds can be a very good scavenger. So they are really helpful in the native ecosystem. So with the benefits of having these birds far outweighing the need of maybe just consuming the bird or cutting down the tree, she was able to emphasize on the fact that if we preserve these birds, not only our agricultural system but also our economy can improve. Now, a lot of tourists are visiting these places to see these birds. So again, there is an income. If you look at her, the clothes of these women, they have weaved, hand weaved these clothes themselves, and they have made these stalks, figures on the clothes, and a lot of side, you can say, income can also be generated with these kind of efforts. So the Hargila army from Assam is another excellent conservation effort where communities, where people have been involved in community based protection for a species. There are several other examples also. I can think of Aranyak from northeast. I can think of a person called Sevaram from Khichan village in Rajasthan, who is involving local people, and he is himself involved in conservation of demoiselle cranes, which is again a migratory bird in India. So a lot of these things are happening, and they become examples because they are more successful rather than individual efforts. Another aspect of community-based conservation is about citizen science. Now, right after me, Dr. Asani Bhadri, who is also a participant in the course, but is an assistant professor at Cluster Innovation Center, and is an ecologist, is a geneticist, is a bird watcher. He'll be talking about citizen science a bit, so I won't be going into a lot of detail into citizen science aspect. But just to give you a brief idea, people, all of us can be involved in collecting data which is not very technical in nature but very simple, presence absence data. ये तो हम सब बता सकते हैं. Say if you come to your college next time, I'll give you a spot in the college. I'll tell you that every day you stand here and tell me what are the birds that you have seen. If you're able to identify those birds, so for 1 year you'll be able to tell me the changes in the patterns of birds which are seen in that region, or butterflies seen in that, from the same point. So this is how citizen science has been cultivated, involving people in collecting data, because in that sense, that way you can have more eyes and more hands into the field, rather than having just one person or one or two people collecting data. You involve people, bird watchers, common people, students, interested, people who are interested in wildlife and ecology and ecosystems. They can be involved in these kind of data collection. And in India, an initiative started by Cornell, which is eBird, where all bird sightings, अगर आपने अपनी balcony के बाहर भी कोई bird देखी, तो you can go to log into the eBird website, put the location of your balcony, and then enter the bird's name and enter the data that okay, you saw this bird here. So even one single data can be a part of eBird's larger data set. So these citizen science projects, about which Dr. Bhadri will be talking about in a while, have really become interesting in terms of how they can generate long-term data sets with minimal amount of effort in field, optimal amount of effort, I would say, in field, and also by reducing logistic cost and expenditure in collecting those data sets. So I think I've given you tried to give you some idea of about the importance of long-term monitoring in ecology, and try to give you the to show you the benefits of these long-term programs and long-term monitoring programs, and try to give you a broader overview of how even in any kind of ecological study or social study or demographic study, these kind of long-term data sets can be really helpful in understanding the system at a broader time scale. And sometimes, again, you may argue that this all depends on the question that you're asking for your research, but in many cases, some of which we have discussed, these long-term data set can give you remarkable understanding of your system. So with this, I would just like to end my discussion here. If you have any questions, I'll just stop sharing my screen. You can put it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask. I can see a comment, studying long-term trend is important. Yes, it is. So the reason why we had this session today, after concluding all the discussions, that long-term data set can be important. Any questions? Anything? Even if you have anything that comes to your mind from not from ecology, but from your own area of interest, something that you want to study and you want to understand the scope of having a long-term program or even a short-term program, but how much feasible that can be, you can ask. Okay, yes, certainly right. Research can be really intensive, and it it can require a lot of passion and time, effort, and involvement. Yes, Radhika, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So you talked about citizen science projects, and I wanted to know that how do we know if there is one happening around us, and how can we actually take part in it?
Okay, just to give you an idea that social media these days is the best way of knowing about anything happening around you, right?
True.
So a very broad prescription from my side will be that keep yourself attached to groups who are working on these kind of things. For instance, NCF, जहाँ से दो लोग अभी पीछे last sessions में आए थे, Dr. Hemanand Kumar, Dr. Karishma Pradhan, they work for Nature Conservation Foundation. So you follow their Instagram page. A lot of information I myself get through their Instagram page. So you have to identify research groups, and people who are working in your area of interest, and follow their pages, follow their websites, and you'll get to know about any such project if they're coming up.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Talk
And
to your,
what
talk
is
to
the
your peers.
scale?
Yes, please.
So, like, how small can or how big a scale can be for us? Like, if so, what all is required if you want to design a citizen science project?
Okay, as I told you, scale. So there are two things that no, we have been trying to incorporate in today's session. One was the long-term monitoring and why
Yes.
is it important, and then we talked about how citizen science can help in long-term monitoring. So scale is is best decided with your own research questions. What are you trying to ask, right?
Okay.
For instance, if you want to design a study to understand that whether mobile towers are affecting sparrow populations, a scale of 1 to 2 years could also be enough, right? But if you want to understand that whether deforestation in Himalaya is going to affect the bird population in the region, you probably will have to work around project affected areas जहाँ पे deforestation हुई है, whether due to dam building or road construction, maybe for 10 years or 5 to 10 years, I would suggest. And then you can find a and then again it depends कि आपको थोड़ा project पहले शुरू करना होगा, and then there is some change happening, and then you monitor afterwards. So
Yes.
scale depends on the question, the system that you are working on, and that's the key.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, Ragini, thanks.
So, could you repeat the username that you said for that organization?
There are many such organizations that can be, if you're for ecology, I'll just type it here. That is NCF, I think NCF or Nature Conservation Foundation is the name. But if you look at the affiliation, Nature Conservation Foundation, Mysore, they are organizing a lot of citizen science programs. Then you have National Center for Biological Studies, NCBS Bangalore. They also have a couple of citizen science programs. eBird itself is a website which is run. Then several stages state departments भी run करते हैं छोटे मोटे programs, तो आपको अलग अलग sources से ये पता चल सकता है. But again, social media, be active, connected to the groups which are related groups, then you will get to know about these. There is a question by Himanshu. This data collection, but commendable is the patience of researchers. Sometimes I feel more and more volunteering force can be created if true guidance be given. Can the course or internship regarding data collection and data analysis can contribute in enriching the fieldwork rather than sticking within the walls of literary sources? How can it change the consciousness of a student towards research projects? See, it's a very relevant question, and no, despite of the fact that I'm no taking up no other speakers' time, I'll just quickly try to give you an answer to this question. See, the importance of training programs in initiating citizen science projects or community participation in any conservation project is very crucial. In fact, yesterday Karisma, when she was talking about her project of hornbill nesting in Arunachal, a lot of training start happens before the actual data collection or actual involvement takes place. So similarly for students also, similar programs, maybe a small course more specific on research and monitoring, which can cater to students from various disciplines. You may not always be interested in ecology, you can be interested in other things as well, but something which is more generic in nature, which can give you ideas of how to design a research project, how to train, how to collect data, how to analyze data effectively, can really be helpful. Yes, I definitely agree with that, and that will definitely help you in also interpreting literary sources, right? So yes, true. Thank you. So okay, so thank you everyone. I think I would hand over the session to Dr. Neha now. If
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Tiwari, for such an interesting uh, lecture session. And this was really very much, I believe this would be a really learning experience for all of the candidates, participants, which are here. Because citizen science, because many of the students, most of the students do not know about citizen science, how they can be, even if they are interested in doing such projects or doing research, or they don't know how to be a part of it. And thank you so much for sharing it with the participants. And I believe now everyone know it. And any one of you, if you are interested in doing such kind of projects, you can do it on your own, as well as you can contact a Center for Earth Studies or Department of Environmental Studies in your college as well. So thank you so much, everyone. This marks the end with this special lecture session. This marks the end of the third theme of this online certificate course. Now, as we know that today we are celebrating the successful completion of this month-long course, which was organized under the three themes, namely climate crisis, climate and community and conservation. So Dr. Tiwari very nicely showcased how community can be a part, how as a community we can also participate in doing the conservation even after living in urban cities. So I hope you must have learned a lot from today's session. During this month-long course, we had 10 special lecture sessions from eminent speakers from all across the country. Right from the beginning of the course, we saw huge enthusiasm from among the participants. Thank you so much to all the participants for that. And as we know that the participants of this course were undergraduate students, postgraduate students, research scholars, as well as the faculty members from various universities. So thank you everyone for being a part of it. Now to kickstart the celebrations for this valedictory session, I would like to welcome Dr. and request Coordinator, Center for Earth Studies, and the course convener, Dr. Anandita Roy Saha for the address, to address the gathering or for the valedictory address. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you very much. I don't have anything to add here except for expressing my delight on the successful completion of the course. It's not a small thing to run a course for 1 month, both for the organizers as well as the participants. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, especially Dr. Naveen Kumar Tiwari and Dr. Neha Mishra for so nicely designing the course, conducting the course. Thank you very much. And for the participants, I hope we have been able to produce something that you take home. For a long period of 1 month, you have been associated with this course. And I hope it was worth attending these lectures. The kind of interactions that I've seen, the kind of questions and discussions which have come up encourages us. These kind of questions encourage us to have these kind of courses again and again. We started this series last year. This is the second one in the series, and we are really humbled by the participation. So all of you are very precious for us. We value your presence, we value your participation, and therefore on this last day, I think it will be a nice idea to listen to you over and above what you have been doing on the during the sessions. You have been interacted. I suppose most of you have interacted, but let us have an open floor where we get to hear from all of you. All of you will be, most welcome to give your comments. However, there are also some members among the participants who are valued for their long experiences in the field, in the subject. So I'm also very eager, like all of you, to hear Dr. Roshni Bhaduri, and there are, some more people. As Neha was saying, there are undergraduate students, postgraduate students. So all of you are students for us, but there are also colleagues who have been working in these areas for a long time. Their opinion, their expertise are most valued. So with this, I hand it back to Neha to invite, I think, Dr. Roshni Bhaduri, and then we'll have an open floor where it's free for all of you to come up with whatever suggestions you have, whatever feedback you have, and whatever you think we all can do as a community. Because after all, we are talking about community. So it's not always rural communities. Most of us belong to urban communities. So as communities, what we can do, what we should do, this is something that is a question for all of us. So let us collectively try to address that, move towards that, and build a better, living space for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your words of encouragement. And now, to continue with the session, I would like to, as ma'am and Dr. Naveen has already discussed about that, we have, as I've told you, we have various faculty members from various universities as well as participants. So talking of the participants, we have a special participant of the course with us, Dr. Asani Bhaduri. He's a faculty member, assistant professor at the Cluster Innovation Center, University of Delhi. So now I would take this as an opportunity to invite Dr. Bhaduri to share, to give a special address to this session today, and to share his experience, because he has years long experience in research. So I would like to request Dr. Asani Bhaduri. So please take over the session and give your address. Over to you, Dr. Bhaduri.
Am I audible, Dr. Neha?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are.
Hi, everyone. Thanks to Dr. Naveen and Dr. Anindita. I'll not take much time for before the certificates. All of you are waiting for the certificates eagerly.
Ashwini,
As
could
I
you
am.
please turn your camera on? As a speaker, we
Yes,
would like to
the
see you.
bandwidth is a little bit low. I'll turn.
Okay, fine.
The
Whatever is
bandwidth is
on.
a bit low. Yeah. So I'll not take much time. I'll take 5-6 minutes to address the question about citizen science. We are working on it, and I think I can understand from Naveen's presentation that many of you are eager. So I'll just take a few minutes to talk about citizen science. I hope that will be okay. Just let me share the screen. All of you can see the screen?
Yes, sir.
And the slides are changing.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
sir.
yes, yes.
Yes, yes. Thank you. So, as you all know, the citizen science is public participation in scientific research. So, what it means is the public, the common public, like you and me, what we can do, we can understand the topic and we can document something. Okay. So, when we understand the topic, we need to document about that topic. Simple as that. So what we do, we gather, or at times we use or even interpret the data with a particular moderator or scientist. Okay, that is for the common public. And for the research scientist, it is also an engagement with the common person. So at times, many of the research topics are very tough or complicated. And citizen science is a way where a scientist who is working in this field can also engage with common public or anyone about what he or she is doing. So, in a sense, when the public understand the issue or the topic, they can also form certain kind of opinion. They can also be part of decision making. Now if we know that, okay, some let's say 10,000 trees are going to be cut in Delhi, and we know how bad that is, we can also form some kind of petition, we can protest, we can convey our message. But if we don't know about this, then it is not possible. So citizen science is public participation, any project where a common person with even a little bit of knowledge can participate. So it's like for you and me. Now, there are certain advantages as well as disadvantages. Advantages, just like I was talking about, that when we are informed once on a topic, we are able to communicate our own feelings. Okay, so 10,000 trees are to be cut. What will be the new trees that are to be the saplings? What kind of saplings are they? Native saplings? Any kind of saplings? Will they will put eucalyptus trees? So all these things we can influence. So when once we are sure about a topic, we can also influence the public policy or the science policy and the decisions that will impact our own lives. So that's the advantage for citizen science. That's why it's coming up so much. But there are some people, mostly the older researchers, they are also some, they have certain doubts about citizen science. And they often talk that if a common person is collecting and interpreting the data accuracy, the data cleanliness, these may not be that good. And also for scanning or filtering out this kind of data, which is the spurious data, we need to involve certain time. And if a scientist is involved, he or she will have to devote certain time to clean the data, to kind of clear out the bad things or the spurious results. So but then people are kind of coming up with several strategies, but as you can see, citizen science is becoming one of the, you can say, not only a hot topic or hot kind of research, but this is also something that we need to do. I'll just tell in a few moments of time that how science can be a good thing for science communication. So science communication can also be a part of citizen science. So just to give you a little bit more idea, because I think many of you are hearing it for the first time, but some of these terms you will probably hear again and again: crowd sensing, crowd science, citizen sensing, community-based monitoring, as Naveen was talking about, community-based management, open science, participatory science. These are kind of different level of citizen science. So it's a broad kind of area where many of the things are kind of interlinked as well as overlap. Like crowd science or crowdsourcing is one kind of citizen science also. And then there are different level of citizen science where the citizens could be just a data collector or sensor or interpreter or even a policy maker at that. So now coming to the point, I think somebody was asking that where to look about citizen science. Even in Wikipedia, we'll also find Dr. Naveen has said about NCPS, which is kind of one of the pioneering institute in India. But about different projects going on in all over the world, I'll suggest two websites. One of this is Zooinverse. It's one of the very updated website. Please look into it. It has literally hundreds of citizen science projects going on in all over the world. And it's not only biology or evolutionary biology, it's also about astronomy, it's about literature, it's about political science. And another one is SciStarter. In both these websites, you can find citizen science projects which are going. But then when I started working on citizen science a few years back, what I noticed that many of us, especially Indians, what we are doing is we are participating in citizen science projects, that is, international citizen science projects coming from other countries, but we are not making that many projects in our own. So what to look when you are thinking of a citizen science project on your own? So before that, whether you are a student or a faculty member or a researcher, I think these are certain points that you can kind of think through, and it will tell whether you are ready for a citizen science or whether you need to join a citizen science project. Suppose you are a scholar but you want to do research but not a project or mentor, then citizen science could be for you. Maybe you're established faculty and you want to mentor many students, or maybe you're a young faculty who are without a lab or funding, then citizen science is the project for you. And maybe you are established researcher in a particular field and maybe bored with that kind of field. You are working for 10-15 years, you want to do something in another study, another area. So all these things will come under citizen science. But talking about India, suppose you want to make a citizen science project unique to India. So first of all, you have to choose a problem that is unique to India. Not everything is unique to India, and not everything will be understood by in a country in Africa or let's say in Europe. So whatever is unique to India, choose that kind of a problem. Should make a simple and clear objective to start with, and do maintain a time frame. Okay, it could be long term, it could be short term, it could be 5 months. So suppose you have made a kind of a clear objective what you want to do, then you should make a time frame, because it is public participation. So you also have to tell people that okay, this is the time frame by which the data should be acquired. Okay, and also in citizen science, it's very important that you connect with people who are actually interested to do work, because they have to go either to the field or they have to collect to the data, they have to talk to people. So it is important that in a citizen science project you get like-minded people. So finding the right problem, scale, and volunteers. I'll just give one example that we did. What we did is we this is the reference, you can read all about it. I'll not go into that much detail, but there are hafta bazars, hearts, what we call Mangal Bazaar, Budh Bazaar, Som Bazaar. There are many hafta bazars in India, all over India, even in Delhi, like an urban metropolis, one of the capital of India. There are too many hafta bazars, but it's not well documented because these are informal markets. Nobody bothered to look about it, and we were the first one. We mapped over 250 hafta bazaars. You can go through this website. Here we have mapped every hafta bazaars possible in last year actually, and it was kind of 2 years back we did this work. And in this map, or in this portal, we have mapped the different hafta bazaars spread all across the Delhi NCR, and if you just click any of the market, you will get certain kind of an idea where is it is situated, what kind of products are being sold, and on which day you can find. And not only this, you can actually work on many other things. You can work on the migration patterns of the vendors, because they move from one market to another market. You can go for a detailed route map, and after the detailed route map, you can actually work with the traffic, because many of these markets are in the evening time and that there is a traffic problem. So you can probably talk about traffic. There are interesting markets like there is a Mahila Bazaar. It is near Minto Road. On Sunday you can visit. All the vendors are ladies there. So two of our students, one from Hindu College and one from CIC, they worked on this Mahila Bazaar. So this is just an example to show you that you can take any topic, but it has to be kind of unique, and the problem has to be Indian. Okay, and before I conclude, why I personally think that citizen science is one of the best method for science communication also. Nowadays there's a boom in science communication, and even the government is also kind of promoting science communication. But citizen science actually gives an opportunity of non-experts to engage with experts or researchers. And citizen science can include anyone, just about anyone and everyone. And this is also good pedagogy for lifelong learning. Suppose you have an elderly at home, he is also, she is also, they want to learn at a certain point of time certain new things. Citizen science is one of the best way to learn a new topic. And many of the citizen science are also interdisciplinary. So you're not kind of uh, kind of stuck with a particular subject or topic or even a coursework. Okay, and of course it will create future kind of researchers. That's something citizen science will do. So I think this I have given certain kind of idea to what could be a citizen science and science communication future prospects. I'm sorry, this is a kind of a short format of presentation. Maybe someday later we'll talk in details in about citizen science. It's also very close to my heart. But if you're talking about you remember the nest adoption program, right, about the hornbills. So there the people who are working in that, so it will be a kind of a language and cultural barrier. The native people who will be studying and protecting the nest, the people who are actually part of the program, and then there could be the scientists who are engaging in certain kind of project and to see what future lies there. Okay, citizen science project also helps in enabling a researcher to mature into a mentor, a trainer. And then there's a kind of feedback or dialogue assisting researchers to design better projects. So there are many other points. I'll not go into details, but just to conclude, citizen science projects a unique methodology to establish collaborations between for dialogues and practices among stakeholders of society. It involves a continuous participation in different citizen science projects, and this continuous participation will lead to absorption of scientific culture and perception. These are often multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary, and we learn about different fields. And actually, a successful citizen science project, like Dr. Navin was talking about eBird, it's not possible for one individual to collect the data for all over India. But if 1,000 birders or bird watchers are collecting data all over India, we'll get a huge data. So it is most often the citizen science projects, they collect more data than it is possible for a single researcher. Okay, and again I'm saying that it will create future researchers like you. So welcome to the field of citizen science. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhaduri. It was really quick, and I think it had a lot of information. So I believe our participants have got a lot of idea of what citizen science is, how they can be citizen scientists by doing, as they have said, by reporting if you are an avid bird watcher or if you have developed even, because why we are talking about birds basically, because we live in urban ecosystem, like it's an urban ecosystem, so birds are the animals that we can easily spot, so that can be spotted easily and we see them every day. So it was really interesting to know, and as you have told, it's beyond the boundaries of culture and tradition also, everyone can participate in it. And how if we have even 1,000 avid bird watchers who become a citizen scientists, we can collect a huge database for India for various birds. Thank you so much, sir. It was really interesting to hear you in this short special address. Himanshu is saying something. Various students are saying, thank you, sir. It was an interesting session. Himanshu is saying, citizen science is a great medium for people outside the area of professionals in the field of science to contribute in research to serve the community. Yes, very rightly said. Now, the students have also understood a lot from today's two of your lectures. The idea of mapping hearts, Dr. Tiwari is saying, is really novel and interesting. Yes, it was quick, and we believe, as we have already I have listened to your sessions earlier as well. We hope to have a webinar or a session with you, sir. It would really be interesting and a learning experience for the students. So thank you again, Dr. Bhaduri. So now we also have something unique for you today. Um, the faculty member we have at the Department of Environmental Studies, Indraprasth College for Women, Mr. Shailendra Kumar is here with us. He is besides being an environmentalist, he's having a unique side to him. He's an avid poet. He writes beautifully. He writes on various topics, including the environment. So today, I would like to request or invite Mr. Shailendra to please recite one of his creations on environment and share it with all of us today. Shailendra, over to you.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Uh, Thank you, Neha. Uh, Thank you, Dr. Anindat Saha, our coordinator. Ma'am thought of this that I should recite my poetry, which is based on the environment. Uh, so that science is usually communicated through the logic, rationality, and facts that have been conducted a lot of sessions during this whole course. But I feel that emotions are also equally important to communicate the science or whatever issue that we are talking. So the poem that I have wrote on the issue is, it goes like, the title for this is हम भूल क्यों जाते हैं, हिंदी में लिखा है। हमारी आदत होती है ह्यूमन बीइंग की कि हम भूल जाते हैं चीज़ों को अक्सर जल्दी। तो लिखा है कि हम भूल क्यों जाते हैं कि हमारा पर्यावरण जख्मी है। हम भूल क्यों जाते हैं कि हमारा पर्यावरण जख्मी है। हम भूल क्यों जाते हैं बद्रीनाथ केदारनाथ के पहाड़ों से आई दर्दनाक चीखें, भयावह खबरें और तहस नहस हो चुके उस मंजर की तस्वीरें। हम भूल कैसे सकते हैं हर वर्ष केरला, असम और बिहार में जिंदगियों को तबाह कर देने वाली बाढ़ को। हर वर्ष दिल्ली, भोपाल और गाजियाबाद में सांसें बंद कर देने वाली हवा को। हमारा भूलना मुमकिन कैसे हो जाता है उत्तराखंड, अमेज़न और ऑस्ट्रेलिया के जंगलों में लगी आग को, जलवायु परिवर्तन की वजह से वक्त बेवक्त होती बारिशों को, उससे चौपट होती फसलों को, उसके ऋण से बिलखते कर्ज, उसके ऋण से बिलखते हताश आत्महत्या करते किसानों को हम भुला कैसे पाते हैं ज्यादातर बड़े शहरों की नदियों का नालों में तब्दील हो जाना, गंदगी से पनपी बीमारियों से अस्पतालों का भर जाना और सार्स, मर्स, इबोला और कोरोना जैसे वायरसों का पनपना और उनसे लोगों का तिल तिल कर मरना। हम भूल कैसे जाते हैं, हमारा भूलना मुमकिन कैसे हो जाता है, हम क्यों भुला देते हैं, हमें भूलना नहीं चाहिए। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you so much. This truly deserves a big applause. I would say it was really beautiful. You very rightly touched every aspect. What we are doing to environment, हम क्या कर रहे हैं, and basically the it is a time of reckoning, like, of all what we have brought upon us. So we have to, take a step now. We have to stop this. If not now, तो अब हम कब करेंगे? बिल्कुल, we are in the midst of a crisis because of our own wrongdoings. And thank you so much, शैलेंद्र, बहुत ही सुंदरता से आपने उन्हें पंक्तियों में पिरोया है। मेरे पास इसके सिवा कुछ शब्द नहीं है। बहुत ही अच्छा हिंदी, इट्स अ बेसिकली आजकल ये भी एक कला है, कितनी खूबसूरत हिंदी आप बोल रहे हैं और लिख रहे हैं। Some students are definitely, they are also applauding it, and they are saying, very nice, sir. What a poem, sir. Ignorance, you highlighted so well. Thank you for writing in Hindi. It was wonderful. बिल्कुल, बहुत ही उम्दा आपने लिखा, शैलेंद्र. So thank you so much once again. Now coming back to the session. Now the Hindi poems are so heart touching. Yes, they are heart touching. So now, as ma'am has already discussed, shared with you guys, so today we are going to have a short open house session here, as Mr. Shailendra shared his views. अगर आपके पास you have anything to say about this course or any of the environmental crisis that we are facing or on any of the environmental issue or anything that you want to share with us or the feedback you want to give us, anything, so please, you are most welcome. You can unmute yourself, switch on your camera and speak up on this session. So it is, this session is for you, for all the participants of the course. All of you will get a chance to share your thoughts today with us. Please.
Neha, may I suggest something here?
Yes, ma'am. Please, please. Ma'am, you are not audible. I think, please unmute yourself.
Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Uh, I mean, just occurred to me that if everyone turns their camera on, then maybe we can have a group photo for the course.
Yes, ma'am. I was about to say at the end. Yes.
Oh, okay.
No, no, no. It's
Oh,
so okay.
I'm
Yes,
so
you're
sorry.
right.
It just occurred to me, and I
Ma'am,
just thought
thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. It's a great idea. I think we should have a group photo.
we should. I mean, in every physical courses, we always
Yes.
have.
Yes. So please, guys, if you can, or please, if you want, you can share your thought first, and we can have a group. Anyone you have to say anything about anything, you can please. Yes, Sani is here.
Uh, Hello everyone. So I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the session. I joined literally like an hour before, like I made the payment and somehow got in at the last minute because there was some problem at my home and like it just got late. And I was so glad that I did it because I have been very interested in like climate change and everything, and but I've always felt this lack of information from like an Indian context. Like if I go on the internet readily available, I've only found like from a you like western reports and like people from abroad making videos about it. I don't know, is that just me, but I just really found this lack of information from the Indian point of view, like context. So this course really like gave me a good insight into this, and we explored like a plethora of topics. It was very like a very intensive like learning experience. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Sani, for sharing your views. Yes, it was our aim was to equip and a multidisciplinary base cohort of multidisciplinary students. And as you know that we had idea of having research scholars, postgraduate, graduate students with us, and we just want to equip you, with the tools and techniques or the experiences, so that you can, sometimes we do not know even about the problems. How can you look out for solutions for that? So that's why it was just, our small step, I would say, just to spread the awareness, not only spread the awareness, to give a little bit of technical knowledge about the policies and what a crisis we are having and what small steps can be taken to make a huge change. That was our uh, okay. Okay, Radhika, thank you so much, Sani. Now, Radhika wants to say something. Why don't you unmute yourself and speak up on your own, Radhika?
Sure, ma'am. I was just saying that, the course has been really like information packed, and we got to learn about so many different things that I thought that, they are there, but, how to properly study. So, all the speakers not only telling us like about the things about like their relevance and how to go about studying them and where all we can get to know about it. So that was really great, and I enjoyed the sessions, all of them, a lot. And like in the first inaugural session, as Sir had said, that debate and delegate now for the right policy action in the future. So I hope that we all learn from this, and we are able to contribute from our like however we can, and help in the better policy actions, and also like to just improve the situations that are there.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Radhika. Yes, Himanshu wants to say something. Please, Himanshu, unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are.
So, ma'am, I am just amazed with that course. I have asked so many questions that I think that I I was every time like whenever the talk starts and I was like I have to ask this question, I have to ask that question. Like this course has made me so excited that I really want to contribute. And when the day I heard about that Ganga prairies, I was thinking, why can't we do something like they are doing? So why can't we do that? So we are in the fertile land of Western Uttar Pradesh and Haryana, and also we are in the plains and we are not in the fringes so close to nature that we know what is happening, but we also want to do something. And whenever I go to my village, I have this conflict with my grandfather, like, oh, why grandfather these old ponds are destroying, and like these local heads, and so why you don't say anything to them regarding that? So he says to me, this is the work of administration, me and you can't do nothing. And I all time I have conflict with all my grandparents that why we people are ignoring these things. But this course has really increased my motivation to do something. Thank you, ma'am, for this course.
Yeah, thank you so much. Himanshu, yes, it was our basically this was what we wanted. As you have mentioned about the Ganga prairies, like we need students like that. We can work on some projects if you are interested. We have also talked to Professor Badola. She is ready to help us with that. So we can like be the one, be the change you want to see in the world, they say, no? So basically, you if you want, this is what I remember teaching you, and we always say this during this in our normal lectures and here also, that you can be the change, right? Don't think that what I can do, every single drop counts. So yes, if you are ready to work in such kind of project, we can definitely plan, we can work on those. We are ready to do that at Center for Earth Studies. We have been doing a lot of projects. You must have heard about. We have worked upon the bird diversity census. We have worked upon the tree census of the college. We have been doing on the we have done a research project with this. All of these has been done with the students on the dust attenuation capacity, or you can say the dust filtering capacity of the tree cover of the college. So we have a lot of science projects that are going on in our college, and it's our constant endeavor, to reach the environmental sustainability and to do our efforts to do the environmental, achieve the environmental consciousness, and do something for the environment protection, and to do the capacity building, basically. We are already always ready for that, and good that you have shown interest, and we can definitely think of working on some projects like that. Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else? Okay, Priyasha is saying something, she's writing. She says, I'm not able to unmute and speak. Okay, that's why I'll just read out what she's trying to say. Just wanted to express my gratitude to the faculty, Dr. Naveen sir and Dr. Neha ma'am, and especially Dr. Anandita ma'am, for organizing this enriching lecture series. For an individual who is so passionate about working towards climate action, this course has definitely become one of the most essential tools I would be using in my future as a change maker. Okay, I'm so sorry she's not able to unmute herself. A lot of background. Okay, thank you so much, Priyasha. Yes, this was our endeavor, and we are so happy that we were able to culminate it into you. So, anything else? You want to point out any problem or say anything? Please, you're most welcome to share anything that you want.
I also want to share with all the participants that we have just posted a link for a feedback form in
Feedback.
the chat box, which I would request all of you to fill and submit as early as possible. It's a very quick feedback form with just some ticks here and there,
Yeah,
and
2 minutes.
just submit it so that it will give us some idea on how to improve, how to make it even better, and any other comments that you might have. So I'll also send the same link to all of you via mail as well. So if is there anyone else who would like to share their views or opinion, or any substantial, you can say, take home message that you got from this course and would like to share with all of us? also. So if we have some time gap in between, yes, Himanshu is saying something. Think more. I wish this new NEP, new education policy, could have come earlier so that I didn't have to leave chemistry for my love regarding political science. I hope things change in education system. Let's see where these changes go. We all are looking at it. No, I think it's going to happen in the very near future. So let's see how we can have. No, it can be a good means of having a mixed bag of subjects for your undergrads and for your courses. But I think it had to be properly implemented. That is a major challenge here, and no, a lot of guidance had to go in no, for students that what kind of subjects that they're going to pick. But that's an entirely different no, topic for discussion. So. Okay, may I request all of you? I think Dr. Neha has already said and know that we can have a group photo. If you all can switch on your
Yes.
camera, I'll just
All of us, yeah,
take
because
up
you
a
don't have to
screenshot
speak now. We can have a
quickly.
screenshot.
May I just add one more thing here? I mean, Neha
Yeah.
and Naveen have already said this, that the Center for Earth Studies is a research and learning center of the college where these kind of projects are taken up. The college also has a provision for an undergraduate research grant. This is our college, Indraprastha College for Women, is the oldest women's college. And I'm saying this because many of you might not have seen the campus at all because of the unusual situation. You have been unfortunate not to be able to visit your own institution. This college is going to be 100 years old in 19, it was set up in 1924. So in 3 years time we are going to have our centenary. So over the last one decade, there is a program which is run in the college called the Undergraduate Centenary Decade Research Grant. The notice is up. So if, I mean, those who are showing so much of enthusiasm, which in turn enthuses us as well, your enthusiasm is what, our, what we may say is our greatest reward. So if you want to take up environmental projects, you can do that directly to the Center for Earth Studies, and you can also do it through the application for the UG Centenary Decade Research Grant. There's an open call. I think it's till 15th October or something is the last date.
15th
If you
October. Yes.
want,
15th
yes.
October.
So you can get in touch with the teachers. Naveen and Neha and Shailendra, all of them are members of the faculty here. So any one of them or many of them, any combination of us can actually mentor you if you are really interested. Because it's not enough to just say that we want to do something and we have learned this. Finally, let us do something. I mean, we have had enough of talking, we have had enough of seminars and conferences. Now it's time for action. So if you really want to do something, there's an open call and there is an offer, a provision from the college. Make use of it. Thank you.
I would also like to say one thing before taking a photograph. I have not officially thanked, so I want to officially I would like to extend my gratitude first of all to the principal, Indraprastha College for Women, for her constant support in organizing this course, and also I would like to. Extend my gratitude to the course convener and the coordinator, Center for Earth Studies, Dr. Anandita Roy Saha. Without her support and guidance, this course would have not been possible. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would also like to thank entire IP college community and the participants of the course for making this course a huge success. Here also, I want to point out two important things for the participants. First thing that Dr. Tiwari has already mentioned, that we have shared the link for the feedback form here. Kindly fill it. And the second thing is also submit the assignment within the dedicated deadline. These two are the important criteria for the successful completion of the course. And on the successful completion of the course, you will get the certificates, as you know. So the e-certificates will be mailed individually to all of you. So that will be your reward on successful completion of this course. So thank you so much once again. So now I would like to request all of you, please switch on your camera for once so that we can have group photograph. Please, if you can, we do not require her. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. It was a great learning experience for all of us. We hope to.
Now will be a time when you will miss in the afternoons that there is no session
Yes.
today.
We will miss the afternoons and hope we will do something like this next year. So we'll meet you.
And
And
next year
yes,
you will join us in
yes,
organizing.
yes. And yes, we are looking, as ma'am said, very rightly said, it is time to act. You have learned a lot during this course. Now, this is the time to act. Please do that. So, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
ma'am. Thank you, Dr.
Bye.
Neha, Shailendra, Dr. Asani, all the participants. So we all had a great 1 month discussing almost every alternate afternoon, meeting all of
Yeah.
you, having different lecture sessions, talking to other people, sometimes talking ourselves. So no, it was great. Let's hope to have similar engagements in future, more active engagements as well, as ma'am pointed out, through research projects, through UZ grant projects and other initiatives. So thank you everyone. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.